Welcome back, everybody, to the Tennis Culture Podcast. It's been a little hiatus. Hope you all had a lovely Easter break, Anzac Day.
Lots of chocolate in the menu.
Lots of chocolate. I had plenty.
Yeah, it's a shame I'm lactose intolerant. It was a lot of issues.
Yeah,
but otherwise, all good.
I'm glad we weren't in your house. That's for sure, man.
It was a small hotel room in Albury.
Yeah, we went to Albury. We went and played a tournament down there. You did quite well. You made the finals of the men's open doubles.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Charlie Snow carried me, though, I got to say.
He did carry
He
you, yeah.
played well, and he's doing well. What a great guy.
All right, let's jump in because we just played a tournament. We don't play competitively much anymore.
No.
But we still understand the inner workings of how competitive play works. It's fun to be reminded of the competitive play from time to time. But you came up with a really good question of what we could talk about for our topic today, which is what is the enemy of tennis for a player?
Which is such a broad question.
It is. And I'm assuming you meant it as though, okay, so what kind of gets people unstuck and what makes people come undone? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's different angles. I was actually thinking also from a perspective of, as a coach, like, what are you competing against?
Okay.
Because, I work at a school, and when we change into the winter season, I lose a lot of girls to other sports, to netball, for example.
Oh, you mean like an actual, an enemy of tennis?
Well, I think it's there's an internal enemy of what you feel like you need, and there's also the external of that, what drives people away from tennis.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. That's good.
Yeah, we can go anywhere with this.
Well, let's start with yours because I do agree. Like here in Australia, I think because Australia has such a huge culture of sports year round, I think tennis is always on the competition with other sports. In the summer, you've got the coast is so close for pretty much 80% of Australia. A lot of people like to go to the coast. They like to do beach sports. They like to, go away on weekends.
Soif.
Most males are into the cricket, especially when they're younger. There's a lot of kids who play cricket.
A lot of cricket players here at the school.
But the winter is where we get flogged. Really, that's our biggest competition because all of the girls go play netball, which I know you work alongside the netball team here at CGS. And a lot of the guys go over and play football and then both go over and play soccer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of competition in those winter sports. And you're right. There's a lot to compete with.
And I don't see it as a massive problem. Like, it's important for young athletes to be diverse and dynamic and do lots of sports. But
Agreed.
We're just looking from our perspective as coaches. Like, we've got a player, for example, who's a good, talented young female player, and she's doing quite well. And then all of a sudden, you lose the progress because she goes to play another sport for 6 months. You're like, oh, we'd love to keep her and keep developing her game or something like that.
Do you feel like one of the enemies of tennis that drives people away is the solo-ness to it?
Yeah.
Like the pressure, the responsibility, everything falls on you, your results. It's a one-man band.
Well, I think that's the problem later on in a young person's tennis career. I think at the beginning, you've got group classes, you've got fun, you've got games, we do team stuff. Like, for example, we had 25 kids out there together playing points, giggling, laughing, having a great time. But I think as you go later into tournament play, then you're out there with the pressure by yourself.
Yeah.
Then it gets a bit because I reckon a lot of players would say that. They would say, I really enjoyed it when I first started because that's how they keep going.
Yep.
And then later on it gets a little more difficult. So creating your team around you later on is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think when you get to that competitive stage, there's a lot less pressure when you're going out there. If you lose with 10 other people. Not all the pressure falls on you. You could still play well and be in a losing team. You could play bad and be in a winning team. With tennis, it's kind of like you need to perform in order to get the results. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of pressure that gets put on that. And how many people do we have in our classes? I look at our Saturday afternoon class. Shout out to the OGs who these guys have been doing tennis classes with us in a group environment for going on. They've been at that same class for 15 years. We've been there 8, but they've been there 15. And
they improved so much.
They have. And they come because they enjoy the camaraderie, the team environment, that group setting, but they don't have any inkling or have any desire to play and compete whatsoever.
No.
So it's an interesting one, and I think that it would make sense if you want to ease into competition play of any sports. It would make sense to play some sort of team environment because you learn that responsibility is shared. It's not all put on you.
Yeah.
But go back to what you said. I'm the same as you. I encourage a lot of kids and any parents out there, if I encourage kids to play as many sports as possible when they're younger.
As many.
Like, I think things like soccer are so good. If you don't want them to get into contact sports, I understand that. But it's also pretty good too. They learn how to be, tough. They learn how to protect their body in certain situations.
To dodge, to
move,
to maneuver.
Things like netball, change of direction. You've got cricket, a lot of hand-eye. I'm a bit biased. I still think tennis is the number one sport for kids because I believe hand-eye coordination, you learn to play against and with others on doubles courts. Again, responsibility falls on you. There's a lot of problem solving. So I believe tennis is the best sport, but there's other things you get from team sports, contact sports, large field sports, longer lasting sports, time sports, what you don't get in tennis. So I'm the same as you. Whenever we get a parent that says, hey, look, going to pull my kids out for the winter, we'd love to be back in summer, like I'm all encouraging about
Totally
that.
fine. Yeah.
I think it's great. And you'll probably back me up on this. When kids come into our programs, it's the ones that do multiple sports that usually progress the fastest in terms of tennis.
Yeah, because they have that dynamic sort of, they're more malleable.
I don't really know what that means.
Malleable. Malleable means like bendable. So their brain, like they're more adaptable.
Got it.
I'll use a better word. Sorry, malleable.
Yeah.
I like that word. But anyway.
It's like flexible?
Yeah. But yeah, they're more susceptible to growth. Like they've done so many different things, and they're not afraid of challenges because they've already played multiple sports already. So when they jump on a tennis court and they've got these different challenges, they're like, oh well, it's similar to this, or they've got some reference points.
Yeah,
something they can go back on. When you talk about the fact that a player has all the responsibilities on them when it comes to performance stuff, it's funny. A lot of kids that are drawn to tennis prefer that. And the thing is that when you play a team sport, what normally happens in a team sport, especially at a young age, you've got one or two superstars that are just guns.
True.
And they take the ball and they score every goal and they run around every person, or they're super quick with a rugby ball. I watched a junior rugby team event one time. It was the funniest thing ever. So what they do is the game where the one kid who's the fastest, he gets the ball and he just runs around the entire defensive line and goes and scores a try.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't get through that, then he'll stop, turn around, run the other direction, a full semicircle, and then come back and go the other way.
Yeah.
So there's no passing, nothing like that. It's just purely one guy takes care of it. So I reckon some tennis players or people who come to tennis are drawn to it because it's on them. They have the racket, they have the ball, they hit every ball. They're involved in every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
And maybe the failure later, if they start to lose, gets on them a little bit. But I think initially it's actually a good thing.
And this sort of comes back full circle. We spoke about this many times on the podcast about we need to, as coaches, we need to create multiple different opportunities for people who have different goals with tennis, because not everyone is like that. Not everyone wants to go into that competitive space. But if we, as coaches, I believe our job is to keep everyone in this sport as long as possible. So we need to create those avenues for people who are like that.
Yes.
And then people who are not like that. And I believe that at the moment we're doing a pretty good job. And I think there's a lot more things we could do as well to make sure people enjoy that tennis journey. And so we don't lose them for good.
Yes.
Or permanently through these
thing.
Other sports.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
They did love tennis for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And it doesn't have to be every day, but we want it to be in your life for multiple reasons for your entire life on a regular basis. That's the goal.
That was beautiful.
Thanks, man. All right, we'll throw it to the great fella Jack at Cancer.
That one legendary guy.
He's a good guy.
He's so cool. There might be two of them.
Anyway, we'll throw it to Jack. No, we won't throw it to Jack. We'll throw it to our sponsor, and we'll be back in a minute.
Thanks, Jack.
We're going to talk about the enemy of tennis. Now, we talked about the physical enemy in being what competes with the sport.
The external, yeah.
But now let's talk about the internal enemy of tennis. And the way I understood the question, which was, if you are playing tennis, what is your enemy? What stops you from, excelling and being the best version of yourself it is? And the first thing that comes to my mind is perfection. I think perfection is one of the biggest enemies in tennis, because people at all levels will not be happy unless they go out and give a flawless performance. They don't look at the side of the tape from both sides. They kind of just analyze their own performance, and if it's not perfect, they'll see it as a bit of a failure. My favorite stat is that when Federer was in his prime, dominating everybody, most of the matches he's winning between 50 to 60% of his points. So he's far from perfect. He's losing 40% of his points.
The average number one since 1973 was 53% of winning points.
See, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like you're losing 47% of points.
Yeah, which is thousands of points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Winners from the other guy, errors from you, all that.
The other thing I think too is that when people, I'll say this more at the beginner to intermediate stage, when people are developing their shots, they're getting told by their coach, this is how you hit a forehand, this is how you hit a backhand. Well, what doesn't get brought up too much is, well, if you ever get in trouble, which happens probably every second point, maybe a ball comes in too close to you, ball bounces higher, wider, whatever. You're not always going to be able to play that perfect shot.
No, you rely on your instincts.
Yeah. So you have to learn, like the book from that Brad Gilbert, he said, you've got to learn to win ugly or get the ball back ugly. By doing that, essentially that is a form of perfection. You're doing what needs to be done in that circumstance, but people don't see it that way. I had a lesson this morning with a gentleman, and he played a ball above the height of his head behind him, and he tried to hit a winner off it, like a blazing winner.
I think I know who it was too.
And he was devastated. He's like, oh, I should have hit a winner off that. I'm like, no, you should have just blocked it back, pushed it back, and then reset yourself ready for the next ball. But I think people are constantly hunting for perfection with everything they do. And the realistic nature is it's just not going to happen. So be willing, my tip would be willing to learn how to win ugly. Did that even make sense? Be willing to learn how to win ugly.
Well, I think
how to play ugly.
Yeah, I think there's an understanding of the actual game itself. Like people don't really understand the game of tennis sometimes to its purest level. So I've gotten to this whole theory: simple is better. Keep it really simple. Because
that's good.
Do you remember when we went out and saw the Rafa Academy demonstration? We saw Carlos and Mark, and they're amazing. They're great guys. They're awesome, and what a history.
Just stop. That's Carlos Moya and
Mark Lopez.
They're
both Rafael Nadal's coaching team, and they run his academy also back in Spain, Mallorca. And they did an event for some Australian kids, which was epic. Tournaments across the nation, a nationals event, and then a little clinic at the end. Awesome. But when we watched them coaching, it was quite simple coaching.
Super basic.
I mean, fair enough, they were doing an introduction with kids they don't know. So they're keeping it really simple. But it was more like, don't miss the first ball and hit hard. And that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
And then make it, move. And it was just run, do this, do that. And that was it. So when it comes to tennis, when you really, really, really think about it, the absolute basic of it, it is literally make one more ball more than the other person.
Yeah.
That is it.
What do you say to people? Because I have multiple people like this who they will say, I don't want to be that player that wins because I just get more balls back.
Puddles.
I want to be that player who hits winners. What do you say to somebody like that?
Well, I think they got to understand they've got this sort of purist thinking, where they have to hit the ball perfect, and if you don't hit the ball perfect, you're not a real tennis player. And I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that. And I struggled in my days, and I'm sure you did too, with what they classify. I'm putting inverted commas here, the puddlers.
Yeah.
In Australia, we call them the puddlers. They're the people who push the ball back. They're super
moonballers on a more international level.
Yeah, moonballers. We'll call them moonballers for our international audience. They are not bad tennis players. They are tennis players. They've interpreted the game their way, and they're allowed to play it that way. You have to accept this. This is what I tell those players who are purists. And the bottom line is they're doing a better job of the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah. Agreed.
So if you want to hit the ball beautifully, that's great, but make more balls than them. Make more balls than them. They're not going to give you any free points. If you have to hit 4 or 5 shots, get some discipline in your game and make those extra balls.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I go hard on them when it's like that. I get tough on them. I say, don't do that purist thing. Don't do that I'm better than you because my forehand looks better than you. Scenario, because that ain't fair. That ain't right. I mean, you look at some of the players on tour, I don't think their technique is perfect. I don't think their technique is perfect. Nick's forehand is not perfect. Rafael Nadal's forehand is not perfect. It's awesome.
But what is perfect now? We're talking about
perfect?
This. Like
exactly.
what is
it
perfect?
It all depends on the person.
I agreed.
What they like to do and what they're good at. And I think this whole technical teaching concept, we're getting a little off topic here on the perfection side, but I think you've got to let people find their way.
Well, and that's it. And I always tell people again that if you look at the top 100 players, male or female, Nobody has the same forehand.
Identical?
No
Negative.
one has the same backhand. So why are we trying to coach this one way of forehand? Like, no. If a person finishes their racket here and it's working and it doesn't cause pain,
Injury is the main thing. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes so much sense. Do your thing, dude. Or chick.
Person.
Yeah.
Human.
Anyway, we're getting a little off topic, but yeah, you're right, and
This is the perfection change.
It's that perfection change. So you guys got to go out, and this goes for anyone, whether you're a beginner player, intermediate, or even if you're at that stage where you're hunting for, your first ITF points and ATP, WTA points. Like if you're that developing player, is that perfection does not exist. At the end of the day, tennis is one of those sports where it is very results driven. And if you want results, you need to be the first person to get to 6 games in a set.
That's it.
However you get there, if you get there before somebody else, that means you did a better job of playing this game called tennis.
Yeah.
And the thing that bothers me is that I lost to this person because they played like this. Oh, they moonballed. I'm like, no, they figured it out.
Yeah, you don't like it?
And I'm
gonna do it.
Were happy to not play that, inverted commas, perfect tennis in order to get the W. And if that's your goal, and if you're trying to develop as a player and progress in terms of results, you got to learn to do that.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree. The enemy of tennis, perfection.
Perfection.
It doesn't exist.
Perfection. What's that movie from? Oh, Remember the Titans.
Ah.
You'll be perfect in every way.
In every aspect of the game.
Perfection. Run a mile.
You drop a ball.
You run a mile. You miss a blocking assignment. You run a mile.
If you drop the ball and run a block assignment, you will take my John size 12 foot up your brown.
I don't know.
And run a mile.
Anyway,
Remember the Titans. That's a good movie.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Great time to end it, I think. Guys, hopefully you got a little bit out of today. We'd love to know your enemy of tennis and find out what the problems that you have going on, whether you're a coach or you're a player yourself. So please let us know in the comments below. Apart from that, if we brought you any value, please share, click, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you next time around on the Tennis Culture Podcast. Until then, this is Nelson and Rez from Tennis Culture.
Signing out.
Great job, dude.
Perfect.
I love where you try to say time.
Don't do perfect. Be yourself.
Oh, damn, I wish I had that. 2-minute break, and we go again. That was good.
That was good.